Hey yo, Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Haram Kakadash. God will want us, the apostles and elders, great most on the whole world. Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of seven truth. Out here again, on the streets, basically teaching the word, man, pushing out that truth. You know, basically coming against this whole society, saying this place as you know it is at its end, man. And its current rulership is going to be done away with. And you're going to have what? The kingdom of heaven, man. Kingdom of heaven come in. And that's basically going to be after all the prophecies are fulfilled about the end times, man. Which is what this place basically being destroyed in all forms and manners, man. Culminating in the nuclear missiles touching down chiefly on America, but all over the globe, man. Then afterwards, what? Kingdom of heaven's going to take place. So now, you know, we're in the time of the end. We're in the time where it's basically been nothing but prophecy flying off the handle. You got now, we're in a time where, it's been a non-stop pandemic situation. And the latest, you know, we're doing it all over again with a new variant's been discovered, and now everyone's having to go on lockdown. So it's happening in Europe. It's going to happen as well over here as well, real soon. It's going to happen. It's going to be a global thing again, because they said a bunch of countries cut off flights from South Africa, and they cut flights from South Africa. So then what now? You know, that was meant to have dealt with it, but you know, just saw an article where they said they got 2 cases over here, they got cases in France, they got cases all over the show. So it's gonna, you know, it's done, it's a wrap, it's the cat's out of the bag. So this is gonna be used to push towards one of the main prophecies, man, the MOTB, that mark, man, that Karagma, which is something that has been spoken about the apostles that came before us, our teachers, our elders who we learned from. They were teaching about it for the longest. And then even us that have come in, we've been talking about it for the longest time. Saying this thing's going to come in. You've got technologies being looked into, being developed. They're already there, they're already working. Like, what's it called? The main one is Neuralink. What's his name? This guy, Elon Musk's one that he's developing, where they're basically, you know, just jamming chips into people's heads. They're looking to do trials this year, more likely than not next month, human trials. They've been having it in monkeys, and they put a whole display on about it. And what? So, you know, the prophecies are there. We're in the midst of a time where all these things are coming to pass, and hey, people are like, all the smack, you go back 5-10 years, people talking all kinds of shit. But now we're in a time where it's like, people doubting, they're not even believing themselves, man. 1 Thessalonians 5:1. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Yeah, as far as for the brothers, this isn't a marvel, this isn't a mystery. We basically look into it and get into the prophecies, line up with what's going now going down in the modern day. That's why I'm able to highlight, okay, well look, you can see this thing's happening in the world that lines up with this prophecy here. And that's something, and that's why it's like the mark has become such a hot topic. They even say, you know, saying saying MOTB not as an acronym, not as an acronym. Your video's gonna get swatted, your channel's gonna get swatted. All kinds of videos that brothers were doing for years. It's funny because there was a time back in the day where they were taking down channels on the regular, then they stopped. But now after what? They were just like, yo, zap, 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 taking channels down on the regular again. You say, and they've added in stipulations to basically minimize what you can talk about. Mainly all about this CV19, man. This C19. That's the main thing that they don't want spoken about. You say certain things, you talk about the yap, its channel's getting swatted. Because why? We're in a time where these prophecies are speaking. So it's like us putting out the message, like, hey, look, this is why these things are going down in this manner. People are getting upset. And it's really the elites, because they're the ones whose plans are coming together. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Yeah, when they say peace and safety, everything, all that peace and safety goes out the window. That's basically been the siren call of all of these yabs. It's basically been like, deal with it, then everything meant to go back to normal. Time and again, back to normal has failed to materialize. And now we're in the midst of it again. People are having fun, people are able to book holidays. Well, it was looking like there was going to be a Christmas, but now it's ceased to exist, man. Now it's looking like, just like last year. People were like, oh, we were promised like the basically Christmas, you would just be able to go out and do whatever. Now it's done. Even at New Year's celebration, people coming around, having celebrations and whatnot, getting together with family. That shit's all in the bin. And it's not been said yet, but if you can look at the time, you can look at exactly what happened last time. Last year they said the same thing. Oh, then hey, a variant pops up. It's all over, man. It says what? But ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. And that's people in the world in general. They're basically caught in that gross darkness, man. They're basically not able to bear witness the things that are playing inside in your face, man. Why? Because the Lord's basically put a spirit out here, had angels out here going around and blinding people from what's going down. And that's something that's not going to be lifted off until the very end. Isaiah 60:1, arise, shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord Yahweh is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. Yeah, gross darkness is covering people in general. We've been really aware of what's going on. They've not been put onto what's going down. That's why it's like sequences of events, you can see it coming a mile away. It's kind of funny, because even with the whole pandemic situation leading up to the first lockdown, from like the November, December that was before 2019, that it was getting reported about what was going on in China, how that was slowly escalating. And it seemed like at the time, just like, oh, this ain't really that big of a deal. It's just something blowing up in China, just like you had years before. Like you had swine flu, you had bird flu, H1N1, all these different things. And they at the time were bigging them up. We're bigging them up like, oh, this is going to be the next humongous thing. Then it came over and it was tepid. But then with this current situation, they're basically just like, yo, we have to lock everything down. And then the lockdown's not even succeeded in what it was, the aim of it was to do. The thing run its course anyway. So it's like, okay, what's actually being gained? It's what people being normalized and these government powers being expanded. So lockdowns can just be instituted. You can tell people they're not allowed to leave their house. You can limit how many people they can see, all these different things, and people will comply. People will cheer and give you a round of applause and say you're saving lives. Meanwhile, go back to Thessalonians. That says, 1 Thessalonians 5 and 6. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. Yeah, that's basically what the role that the Lord's basically put on over Israel, man. The elect of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Those are the elect among Israel. They've basically been put in a position of being watchmen. watchmen so like they've been given a role of being watchmen over Israel, and as such that's really watchmen over the whole world, because it's okay, let me read this and then I'll read after, because basically the Lord only reveals his secrets to servants and prophets. They're the ones who are basically going to be clued on what's going down. For the heathen, they're just spectators, man. They're out on the periphery. They're just going to be seeing what's going down. They're not going to be engaged. It's mainly about Jacob and Esau is going to be the main target, and Jake's going to be, you know, that righteous protagonist that's gonna basically bring about the judgment that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is pushing forth. Isaiah 62:6, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. He that make mention of the Lord Yahweh, keep no silence. Yeah, so the Lord basically sent out watchmen. And it says what? They will not hold their peace day nor night. Because when you deal with, it's funny, you deal with what do you call it? Like, as far as you deal with the church, these guys, they'll have the same scriptures, they'll have the same Bible, and then what? These guys ain't speaking up about. They're not talking about prophecy. They're not talking about the times we're in. They're not talking about Yahweh Shai. They're not talking about the truth. They're not talking about any topics that are conducive to the present times. And that's the thing. It's being a watchman. You go back and you look at how the prophets conduct themselves in the ancient world. When they'll be coming around, they'll be talking those harsh truths that will get people so roused up. They'll be looking to do physical harm and put them to death. That happened a fair few times. That's why you have it say what Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets. The prophets are meant to be out here talking about things that are going to get people upset, get people roused up, and basically looking at them like, yo, we want to get rid of these guys. That's why you have the channels getting swatted. But then you have what? A lot of these Christian guys, they ain't, what are they talking about? They're basically just talking, all they're trying to do is frustrate the purpose of the men of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. They're not putting anyone on levels to be able to deal with the coming times. And that's the thing. That's why it's like everyone comes to GMS, man. Comes to the apostle of GMS on down, man. The whole of GMS teaching that same word. Because why? What we've been pushing out there, what we've been teaching, it's become relevant, man. To the point where now it's inescapable. Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants and prophets. So the Most High reveals the secrets unto his servants and prophets. It's basically the men he's selected to be like, yo, you men are going to know what's going down. You men are going to basically be given the knowledge of what's going to come to pass. And then what? It's a matter of pushing that word out. Jeremiah. Let me read that again. So Amos 3:7. Surely the Most High Power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants and prophets. So yes, but it's basically the prophets are being clued into what's going down in the present time. So that's the thing. As far as for the truth, even for the interpretation of the scriptures, these things are not just given out and pieced out to everyone. It says what? Don't cast your pearls before swine. It's why these things are pearls, man. These are nuggets of wisdom. It's basically understanding that's going to get you to basically be able to endure through the coming times. Because as far as for now, the intensity of what do you call it? Of difficulty that's going to come in the hour of temptation, it's not reached the highest peak yet. It's not reached fever pitch. But then what? It's as it builds up towards it. Then what? As it builds up towards it, then people are going to be like, "Yo, hold on, what's going on?" They're going to be looking for some answers, understanding, and that's only going to be with a few people, man. Because that's how the Lord is. The Lord said he's basically dealing with a little sanctuary. Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord Jehovah is his treasure. Wisdom and knowledge is basically going to be the thing that allows you to endure through those times. And that's the thing, is any time of hardship, that's been an essential ingredient. Because as far as, it's like you go into Matthew 24, when Yahushua was getting into flee ye to the mountains, dealing with when the Romans are going to come in and basically bring an end to Jerusalem, man. Besiege Jerusalem and then put it on smash. That was something that said for those that can hear, those that can understand, those that can receive it, said flee ye to the mountains, man. Say, yo, there's you pray not your flight being in the winter. Yo, don't take certain things. Just don't go up on the rooftop. Just said like, yo, just depart. Because why? It's basically going to be a time where time is of the essence, and you got to know what the level of what you're dealing with, man. And that's what those people that were caught out there, man, and then got all kinds of destroyed, man. Because that's basically how the Lord gets down. The Lord will have be like, okay, I'm going to get down like this, and we'll pass on the message of that to his men. And then what? Okay, Ezekiel 3 and 17 says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. Yeah, so being a watchman, and Ezekiel was made a watchman, means what? Hear the word and give them warning. And that's what these videos are, man. This is all about giving a warning onto Israel, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're rousing up the spirits of those of the elect, man. Those where the message will resonate with them, man. They'll hear it and then they'll take heed onto it. But then it's also for those that are basically gonna go out and hear it and still continue in their madness. Then for them, it's basically just going to allow us to be like, yo, we gave you the warning, man. We gave you the means by which to save yourselves. If you're not going to take heed, hey, that's on you. It says, give them warning for me. When I say, verse 18, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to him, to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thy hand. Yeah, so if you got a Jake doing all form of madness, you can tell them like, hey, look, man, this is what the word is. hey, this is what the deal is. Like, you can get down or not. Then, if they don't want to get down, then, hey, look, it's on them. But if you ain't even, you're gonna see him doing all form of madness, and then just not even, and you know he's doing all form of madness. One thing when there's guys in the world, these guys don't have no fucking clue what's going on. They ain't even gonna save themselves. So they ain't even got the means to. But it's like, for what? The righteous man, you're meant to basically be warning from them. And that's what we're doing here. That's why it's like the message that we put out, we're just coming with 100% truth, man. Well, we're just saying like, hey, look, this is what's gonna go down. If you wanna receive salvation, you're basically gonna have to get down with the program, man. And it's really that. If Jake don't want to get down with the program, then hey, the Lord ain't gonna get down with him either. It says what? Says yet, okay. Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Yeah, that's the thing. If afterwards you've given the message, they don't hear it. It's like we say, hey, look, when that Karagma comes out, when that mark comes out, the MOTB, you ain't meant to be getting down with it, man. You get down with that, you're basically going to be tormented in the sight of the holy angels, man. You're basically going to get judged, man. You're going to get put to an end. Any chance of salvation goes out the window. And that's a funny thing, because even with like people in the churches in the world, even these down south, Bible Belt, so-called white people, because some of them are Jake. These guys have basically been on social media, going on and on about that. But then what? It's funny as well, because most people are just like, no, I don't give a fuck. They're even more staunch in it. They're just like, yeah, I'll fuck with it, I don't give a shit. That's funny, because the message is basically, especially on the mark, that's getting spread abroad. All kinds of people hearing it. But then what? It's gone way further than a bunch of other messages. But then what? It's like even more people are basically just snubbing it. But that's the thing. Once it goes out, then you're gonna see.
My brother, you're a little bit close to the camera.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. It's only a little while. Cool. All good. Thanks, bro. But it says what? I'll require blood. Okay, verse 21. Verse 20. It says, again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he hath done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Yeah, so it's like even more so if a righteous man that basically just turns off into some form of madness, some form of wickedness, and then you're basically just going to see like, yo, this guy was on the path, but now he's slipping. Like, what's going on? That's where reproof and rebuke comes in. Because that's basically being done out of love to basically save your soul, man. But then what? It's like those that see. It's funny as well, because you'll see people where we're all meant to be Israelites. We're meant to basically be aiming for salvation, man. But then what? If you see a brother turn off and go into some madness, like he stops teaching the name, or he starts bringing in funky doctrines, then you're basically meant to be like, yo, what's going on? And rebuke whatever the funk that's coming out. But then what? The poor guys, well, they'll basically link up with them and not address any of that funk, man. But then what? That's in the end, you're basically bringing judgment against yourself. His blood's going to be on your hands. And then that means you lose your path to channel to salvation, man. It says, nevertheless, if thou warn the righteous man, that the righteous man sin not, and he doth not sin, he shall surely live, because he is warned. Also thou hast delivered thy soul. Yeah, so it's it's in your own best interest to basically, if you see someone doing some funk and you know it's funk, then you basically gotta be like, yo, rebuke them. Otherwise, it's a wrap on both your heads, man. And that's how raw this thing is, man. That's why it's the Lord said He said, what? Watchmen. Men are meant to watch and be aware, like, yo. So 2 Peter 3:3. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lust. And that's something else we got multiplying as we're approaching the end. Basically, everyone's in that spirit where they're all self-assured. Everyone knows, like, oh, you're coming out with with the truth, and they're just like, that's all mess, man. That's all crud. Why are you man talking about that? And everyone's basically become reinforced in their own wicked ways, man. Which is something that's become increased as time's gone on. It's got more and more unrighteousness has basically been leaking out. It's like, cool. For now it's gonna run, but then what? There's gonna reach a time where, like in 2 Ezra 15, it says, the Lord's gonna be like, yo, I ain't even gonna be able to deal with that wickedness no more. You guys gonna have to basically taste in the judgment. And that's a thing, because and it's funny, because there's hella examples. What they call now, this current age, they call it the information age. Because as far as with the advances in technology, with like the expansion of like the internet and these different things, and all these different nations linking up together, getting information on a bunch of historical topics, on a bunch of different things that go down, that's easier than ever. If you go online, you can look into all forms of topics. And then a good topic to look into is past empires. Because from previously failed and doomed empires, you can have all form of understanding you can gain from it. And the main one that would apply to the present time, the present American empire, is Rome. You go back to Rome. These guys basically from the Renaissance over here in Europe, it's been molded after Rome all over. So when you look at how Rome fell, and then you make parallels with that to the US, you see all kinds of signs like, hey, these guys are about to reach a similar conclusion, which is what the Roman Empire. That shit ain't around no more. You ain't gonna go into to Italy, to Rome, and then just all of a sudden Caesar's gonna be there in his toga. Those things are done away with. But now you have the modern world where everyone's molding themselves after it. But then what? They've basically fallen into the same traps. A big one is military expansion. Because that's one of the key blessings that came with the fourth beast. It was diverse from all the other beasts because they had a system of democracy. That system of democracy was different from all the kingdoms that came before. Because before they would set up kings and follow after kings. Even the Greeks, who they say like, democracy started with them. When they came into the rule, they still set up kings and followed after them. That's why Alexander's upheld to a certain level. But then what? That military expansion, that's the same thing America's done. They basically got bases popped up all over the earth to where it's at an unsustainable level. And then you look at the devaluing of the currency. If you look at just the last 2 years, the debt limit's gone up, I think maybe 4 trillion or maybe 5 trillion by now in the last 1.5 to 2 years. So it's basically doing the exact same thing, devaluing the currency to where the dollar ain't worth anything near what it was worth a little while ago. And then on top of that as well, the morals of the society degrading. That's something you've had increase over time. When it's funny because America was apparently set up where it's meant to be following after the Bible, meant to be following after the laws of the Bible. That's something that's been thrown in the bin for the longest. And that's in prophecy. Was no, I can't find him off the top of my head. But what, as far as this current rulership, let me go into it, man. Touch on Daniel. Daniel 2:40. It says, "What? And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for so much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And iron, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces." Yeah, that's the Roman Empire, man. That iron, where they basically had that military might to expand, to basically bring in subjection a greater part of the earth, to where it was even beyond what previous kingdoms have been able to do, man. Them man were up in the UK, man. They went up into the UK. Them guys hella expanded. So I said, what? And where at verse 41, and whereas thou sawest feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, and there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for so much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And yeah, the toes, the feet and toes, that's talking about the current rulership, where chiefly the EU and NATO, the power structure of the beast. And they said what? It'll be divided, because why? It's not one nation. The whole Brexit vote shows, well actually it says it, I'll read on. Okay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, the kingdom shall be partly strong, partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Yeah, so you basically have these different nations come together, then they're not cleaving. That's why you'll have like a collection of people like what do you call it? Like the European Union, where everyone, huh?
Like your head.
Oh, because of the wind, I don't want to be too far away. Yeah, iron mixes iron plate. So you have what, like the European Union, where it's all these different nations come together, and they're not cleaving, they're not moving as one nation. And that's basically something you can see through what the Brexit vote, where you had Britain and the rest of the EU part ways, and you've even got, like it said, it'll be partly strong, partly broken. You got parts of Europe, like Germany, where there are powerhouses economically, innovation-wise, technology-wise, in all manners of ways. But you've also got other places. It's like Greece. That economy's been in the can for the longest. As such, what? Then it's like with Greece, them guys aren't even sustain themselves. They're basically being what's the word? Held up by the stronger sides, and these things build up contention between the different people, and then historically as well. Because even like culturally in the UK, it's basically been a thing to just take the piss out of the French. Same vice versa. There's all these little enmities. Even if you go to football, it's like whenever Germany and England have a football match, these guys get into fucking swingers in the streets. Because why? There's all that tension there. And that shit goes back to like World War II, man. So even though it's all Esau, these guys aren't all together. They're not all working as one. And it says what? And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. They shall break in pieces and but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms and shall stand ever. Yeah, so that's basically going to be the resolution, the end of this current kingdom, man, this current rulership. Because as far like this present rulership is like a hodgepodge, an amalgamation of Frankenstein's monster of all the previous kingdoms that came before. That's why in Revelation it says what? Call it Sodom and spiritual Sodom and Egypt, because they inherited the the morals of Sodom. They inherited forms of worship in Egypt. That's why they uphold, and that's why they have monuments to these different places. And then what? It's all of these rules, because it says what will not be left to other people. All these different rulerships that came before, they were what? They were in the hands of the heathen. And the one who basically the kingdom of heaven is going to be in the hands of, that's going to be in the hands of Israel, man. So-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. They're the ones who are basically going to be set up to rule in the kingdom of heaven, man. Rule righteously under the scriptures. But that's something that wasn't during these previous rulership. Israel wasn't upheld. The scriptures weren't upheld. The name of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua wasn't upheld. And it says, for so much, that's verse 45, for so much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great power made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof short. That's a thing, yeah. This dream, there was a reason why Nebuchadnezzar was so bugged out now, why it weighed on his mind so heavily. Because why? This was a heavy dream. That's why it was recorded. And that's why it's to this day, it's still relevant. This is something that scholars have looked into. They're like, yo, they had to have some kind of foreknowledge to be able to put this together, because it lines up too well. And that's basically how you've had, that's the thing. Now we're in the midst of it. We've had all these different empires come at the time of Daniel. That was the time of what? The head of gold. But now we're in the time of the toes. Iron and miry clay, the feet and 10 toes. And then what's the end of that?
Yeah, yes.
Cool. So back in second Peter 3, and 4 it says, "But say, where is the promise that is coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation." That's a big thing that's basically in a modern time. Just like with everyone basically following after their own lust, being deceived by their own vain opinion, everyone's maneuvering like they're basically the god of their own world, man. They all think like whatever their desires are, whatever their approach to life is, they're basically going to be able to fulfill it however they desire. The truth is, in reality, that's just one of the lies that's been told, man. Because it's like, even if one of the lies that's been told, because even if what you call it, it's like if you don't want to wake up and go to work, that's if you don't want to wake up and go to work, then you know no means by which you're gonna be able to do that. Most people hate their job, hate waking up on Monday morning, but they still got to go in, and otherwise they get paid. You got a lot of people, they might be stuck paying child support, stuck in all kinds of unfortunate situations, but they ain't got any means by which they can bring change to that. Because why? Well, that's why it's the light. Because as far as the one who really has the power to make things as he desires, that's Esau. Really, only the elites at the top. These guys are basically able to enforce their will and do whatever they desire out there.
That's why they don't see nothing.
Huh? But then what do you call it? For the people on the bottom, they're basically stuck within that system, man. These guys have to maneuver how the system is. If you want to just go out into the countryside, find a plot of land, and then just plant a field, and then cut down some trees, make some planks and build a house, you're gonna be breaking all forms of laws, man. If someone catch you out there doing that, you're gonna get suplexed by the law, and then you're gonna be violating some form of law. Because that land's either gonna belong to someone, belong to the state or whatever. Then even if you're planting your ground, whatever, they might just say, hey, look, this is a only sanctioned for X, Y, Z, and then that's all gonna get thrown out. But then what? That's why it's like even you had a story. I can't remember. I think maybe it was New York. But there was a guy who was like off the bridge for like 29
years. That's his name.
Yeah. It was the one. Yeah, the thingy one. It was on oh man, yeah, back in the day. Yeah, it's like guys. That guy was like that's a complete and total anomaly for that to go down. And then even he said like he didn't even sustain it. It wasn't like he just sustained himself off nature. He went in and just kind of robbed like clothes and food and whatever from people's huts or whatever. Yeah. When I said huts, I mean, yeah, I was like,
Going to their vacation home and basically stealing game wares, blankets, clothing, whatever you needed to utilize. So I guess the point you're getting to is there's no way you can
just be completely off the grid and then just be able to do whatever you desire and maintain yourself. That's as far as that time being, that's gone. And it's even if you were
the guy got caught.
Yeah. Because even if you do, it's like them finding you is going to be just simple as using like satellite images, all these different things, man. They got thermal imaging, they got all forms of different ways of just tracking and tracing people.
And that goes into the mark, dealing with the mark of the beast. Because a good example of that is dealing with Kanye West. He said he was a billionaire for 3 years before they actually established, came out, and they were hiding it from him for 3 years before he was made known to him that he was a billionaire. Now, why did he do that? Because, I mean, one reason obviously is they don't want anything to be empowerment or have Jake. That's one level. But the other thing is like, this is the reason why they want to keep tracking it with money, because they can manipulate information to their advantage. So when you see the mark coming into play and everything right now, that's being established to the point of being able to track and trace and know everything everyone has. And then, if someone has too much, they can take it away, present some kind of law, situation, scenario, and take away from it. Really establish peace or the ruler over everything. So at the end of the day, it's about everything to coalition. Jake, knowing something like you can touch a billion and it's possible, that's gonna galvanize a lot of the minds of Jake to basically like, you know what, I wanna be a billionaire too. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things.
Even that's something that doesn't really hurt them or the system.